Let's go through some football headlines here, and let's start in Chicago with Roquan Smith. The last unsigned rookie has ended his holdout. He's in with a deal, and we knew what the deal was going to be ahead of time. So what held everything up here?
It was about the language that would void guarantees in his contract if he were disciplined, suspended for on-field behavior. Not off the field, but if he bumped an official, if he got into a fight, if he did something that the league felt warranted some sort of discipline and a suspension. The language that he and the Bears were arguing over could have voided some of the guaranteed money in his contract. And there were other first-round picks this year that got the language that they wanted. Roquan Smith refused to budge in this particular area. That was the last hurdle for these two sides to agree on. We don't know exactly where it wound up coming out, but we do know that they were able to agree. They agreed yesterday afternoon. Roquan Smith is in Chicago this morning. If he hasn't signed already, he's about to. He's going to practice with the team. The Bears play in Denver this weekend on Saturday night. My guess is that Roquan Smith will not play against the Broncos and that the Bears will get him ready for the third preseason game, which is really their fourth preseason game this year because they're playing the extra preseason game. But the bottom line is the Bears get the instinctive, explosive linebacker that they believe they can build their defense around. The last unsigned draft pick is now in the fold.
I continue to be astonished it took that long, but all right, so at least that's done. Now, the ones that aren't done yet. We continue to speculate. The Raiders and Khalil Mack, the Rams and Aaron Donald. Where are we with these?
Well, in regards to Aaron Donald, a lot of people think a deal could get done this week. That's not the case. I don't think they're going to get a deal done this week. Both sides continue working, and I think they're hopeful, and I think they're optimistic, but they haven't moved the needle much to date, and there are still issues to get through, and the two sides that have spent over 20 months trying to get a deal done still don't have that deal done. And again, there's just too much at stake for both sides not to figure out and work out something that eventually I think something does get done. But again, there are still hurdles for these two sides to get through. When it does get done, Greeny, it'll make him the highest paid defensive player in NFL history if they can get it done. And I would imagine it'll be big numbers, north of $20 million per year on average. We've seen the highest guarantee for a defensive player go to Von Miller, $70 million guaranteed. If they can get this deal done, and my sense is over time they will, it'll be north of $70 million in guaranteed money for Aaron Donald. And Khalil Mack and the Raiders haven't had any contract discussions since February, if you can believe that. And for every preseason game that Khalil Mack misses, it's an $814,000 fine. The fact that he's willing to miss games to this point would tell you that he is entrenched in his views and he wants his new deal. And the fact that the Raiders and him are not talking about a deal is troubling. But again, if you're the Raiders, you make a deal with the player, get it done, whatever needs to be done, or you make a deal with another team. Right now, where they're at doesn't help anybody.
All right, I agree with you completely. Let's go to a guy who is playing, and at least through one performance looked great. The New York Jets and their coach Todd Bowles is not committing to a starting quarterback. What is the latest on Sam Darnold, and what do we expect Thursday night in their second game?
Well, look, Greeny, he's been taking increased reps in practice, so all signs point to Sam Darnold making the start Thursday night on ESPN, our first preseason telecast of the year, with Jason Witten and Joe Tessitore and Booger McFarland and Lisa Salters making their debut together. It looks like they'll be starting when Sam Darnold is starting on Thursday night. A big unveiling for everybody. How do you feel about Sam Darnold as a Jets fan, Greeny?
I love it. I mean, I couldn't have been more excited what we saw on Thursday. And they have Josh McCown, who can start, and that leaves Teddy Bridgewater, who also, by the way, very quietly played very well on Thursday night. So if they have McCown to be sort of the bridge to Sam Darnold. Where does that leave Teddy Bridgewater?
Well, it leaves them in a spot, first of all, you never have enough quarterbacks. It leaves them in a spot where they have an extra commodity if any team suffers a quarterback injury. Remember, Teddy Bridgewater bet on himself with a one-year contract. The Jets don't have to do anything. If they find that there's another team that needs a quarterback suddenly due to injury, they always have a commodity in Teddy Bridgewater. If not, you hold on to him because he's a valuable player. He's played very well so far. He's bounced back from that injury and seems to be the Teddy Bridgewater of old, which is very encouraging for him and could make him a hot commodity on the free agent market next offseason if he's not traded and signed to a long-term deal before then.
All right, I want to get through a bunch of quick things with you here on injuries, starting with Saquon Barkley. We saw a little hamstring yesterday. What's the latest?
Listen, it's preseason, so he has the hamstring injury. You saw on this play right here, he gets a little gimpy. And so when there's a hamstring on a running back, a team is going to be smart. There's less than a month until the regular season opener. The Giants are not going to rush him back. It wouldn't surprise me if we don't see him again in the preseason, but that they gear up to have him ready for the regular season. I'd be surprised if the injuries sideline him into the regular season. Don't think that happens, but I think the Giants will be very smart until then.
Antonio Brown seemed to get all upset yesterday with a reporter on Twitter and that he was hurt. He says he's not hurt. What happened here?
Well, that's exactly what happened. There are people who claim that they spotted him limping off the practice field. But there are people on that practice field who spoke to Antonio Brown who said he's fine, didn't aggravate the quad injury that he suffered last week, didn't suffer any new additional injury. Maybe he was just limping off the practice field on his own. Sometimes it's hot. Sometimes there are long practices. Sometimes the bodies are tired. But the fact is, nothing new in terms of an injury for Antonio Brown. He's fine. He's moving along. There's no Madden curse in effect for Antonio Brown. Everything is okay there.